Dr Mpho, and welcome to the Sheds. We are back again, shedding the light on everything that matters.
Is there a possibility to see, as you're unveiling those names, to see your former presidents such as Jacob Zuma emerging in the act?
Me, I believe in leaders who emerge out of struggle. I don't believe in people who are made by the media.
The ANC is still trying to grapple with power. It is still trying, to cling on to power. And most probably that's why we're also even finding it very difficult for not just only the ANC, but also other political parties coming into the fore when it came to the review of the electoral bill.
We are talking about an 80.9 billion budget of the city of Johannesburg. Basically, to run the city, there's about 80 billion, 900 million that is involved. Somebody will ask, what does it mean to preside over a budget this big?
I haven't had time to sit back and say, hey man, well done. My focus really has been in ensuring that we are moving forward, we are sustaining. So maybe in December, sitting down with a glass of whiskey, I can say no. At least,
I want to ask this, doctor, because I think currently, as you've seen, in our country, especially in the space of social media, you see people coming out having a meltdown of mental illness. Do you think people, because they don't know how to deal with it, some they just cause outbursts in those spaces? Do you think maybe the problem is that we're not having much discussion about it, that people, they don't know where to go when they start to experience?
The most important thing is that the people, they need to vote in line with the kind of future they want to live in. They can't be voting because of the past or not wanting to participate in voting at all. So what we're saying is the ATM, critically, we need to invest in the future. And the future lies in educating our young people.
From the look of things and the researches that has been done, it looks like we won't get an outright majority.
The thing was always there, the phrase was there, but we needed to take it, clothe it, because I viewed it as civic activism with purpose that needed meat.
Actually, the breaking point was seeing the people that I looked up to, Baba, subjected into such things and they had to succumb to it.
Amazamazamas is the what meek, or I don't want to say meek, abantu who are hard workers.
South Africa today spends 143 million rand every day paying these so-called independent power producers of renewable energy who deliver zero, because 100% of their power is redundant, meaning it is not usable in the grid.
I've got 3 clean audits. I've finalized more than 60,000 complaints and issued 412 reports. And by last year, it was only 14 or 17 which were set aside. And it's not even a percentage.
I think 30 years or so now down the line, the time to review the Constitution has come.
Botani, and welcome to the Sheds. We are once again shedding light on issues that matter. My name is Nyanso Chegu. I'm with Tukasana Kochola. I'm all right, man. Guys, picture this. You are a doctor. Then you become a politician. Medical doctor. Then you become a doctor again. It's the skill set them is of another nature. Today we're shedding light on Dr Mpho Phalatse, who was the member of the DA. In fact, she is still a member of the DA, but she's a former executive mayor, was expelled through a motion of no confidence, went back to healing people whom she had abandoned. She will tell us why she abandoned people for politics. Welcome, ma'am.
That's
Welcome to the Sheds. Good. I've always been fascinated. A doctor who wants to become a politician, whereas we have a shortage of doctors in the country. Why would you take a decision of abandoning after studying? They say doctors study 7 years in class. Then you go for politics, where you can be removed by emotional no confidence to a show of hand.
Firstly, I never stopped being a doctor.
Okay.
The whole 7 years I was in the city, I was still a doctor.
Oh, but you're practicing?
Not clinical medicine.
Okay.
And I say this because there's a specialty in medicine called public health medicine.
Okay.
Which is what I was practicing for the 7 years I was in the city.
What is public health medicine?
It's public administration with a focus on healthcare.
Oh.
Now you'll recall that my first 3 years in the city, I was MMC for health and social development. So I was directly responsible for health services in the city and social development as well. I then went on to be mayor, and you might say, but that's not healthcare. But health in all policy is a World Health Organization imperative that says healthcare is beyond just the health sector. So the minute you go to a hospital, we have failed. We failed you. We failed to keep you safe. We failed to make sure you're employed, you're eating healthy, you're living in a safe space where you can walk, you're physically fit, you've got access to amenities where you can have also your social health and your mental health taken care of, and so on and so forth. And you know, you've got access to clean running water, you've got access to electricity. You're not living in an overcrowded space where you're exposed to communicable diseases. So all these departments work together towards the health of an individual. And when I was MMC Health, I felt so restricted because, you know, you try and explain the vision to your colleagues, they don't always see it. They don't always understand that they're also in the business of keeping people well and healthy. Being unemployed can take a huge toll on a person. Those kind of things. Are we growing the economy? Are we creating jobs? Are people happy? You know, what are the stress levels like in our city? All of that contributes towards wellness. And because I felt restricted, I started itching for more authority, more influence within the space of city governance. So that ultimately our people can be well. Because, you know, running a city is ultimately about the people. It's not about the infrastructure. Those are enablers. It's ultimately about the people in the city. They must be thriving, they must be happy, they must be healthy. So that's why I say I never stopped to be a doctor. So you may not be aware, but I came almost directly from academia. I spent 4 years at Wits doing public health medicine. So that's public administration. And public health is so broad. I think I spent about probably a third of my time doing health systems management, which is more focused on managing hospitals, clinics, and health systems. But the rest of the time was spent doing occupational health, doing communicable disease control, you know, and various other things that are not necessarily focused on just a hospital or a clinic. And I came into the political space with the expertise and continue to draw on my networks, even from the 4 years that I was at Wits. And I continued in the business of healthcare. And you recall we did amazing things in the city at the time. We had 3 years. It was better than the 1 year, 4 months stint that we had.
I want us to take a step back, and I think it's very interesting that and it's very important to zoom into that. You being the first female mayor in the city of Johannesburg, the biggest metro, overseeing more than 6 million residents. I want to talk about, just to tap about in that, to say your legacy. What do you say was your legacy, if you're to reflect on that?
One of the biggest things that we managed to drive, and I'm quite glad to see that the current administration is still going ahead with some of the plans that we had put in place, is the whole energy sector. Where we realized that Johannesburg, being the economic hub of the country, is responsible for investment attraction, attracting big business, creating jobs, and continuing to contribute meaningfully towards the country's GDP. But what we were seeing capital flight because the city was becoming dysfunctional. And one of the biggest challenges was, of course, load shedding. And we were losing big business to the city of Cape Town. Besides those who were just leaving the country. You know, and when we did a comparative analysis between Johannesburg and Cape Town, we realized that Cape Town had capabilities that Joburg did not have to insulate big business from load shedding. And we started investigating how we could achieve the same. We sent a delegation to the city of Cape Town. You'll recall that we hosted the first ever Energy Indaba in the city. It was supposed to be annual. I see they've not kept it up, but it's okay. At least whatever resolutions came out of that are still continuing. And we, subsequent to the Energy Indaba, MMC Michael Sun took a delegation to the city of Cape Town to see what they're doing. How is it that when we are on stage 4 load shedding, they're only on stage 2? You know, what's protecting them? We looked at how their network is configured and how they're able to insulate certain big customers from load shedding. And we started to devise a plan to implement similar strategies in Johannesburg. And I'm glad to see that plan is being rolled out by, of course, the technocrats who received the mandate, but with the support of the political leadership in place now. So it's good to see they didn't throw it out when we were ousted.
That being what you count as your legacy, the energy plan that you've put in place, what would you say is a headache about being an executive mayor of a city as big as Johannesburg?
Leading Johannesburg is not supposed to be a headache. What's important is to be realistic. The city was broken. If you followed my campaign, I spoke about a broken city. Why did I do that? I was managing expectations that we're not inheriting a glorious city. We're inheriting a broken city. And we're here to start the repair process. And when you do that, then you hopefully will have stakeholders on your side, working with you towards the repair and the rebuild of the city. And when you have that kind of an understanding, you have support. You know, you're not blamed for things that happened decades before you became the mayor. And so you're able to start the rebuilding process without any headaches. Unfortunately, politics being politics, even when people know that you're not the reason why we have the infrastructure backlog that we are having. You're not the reason why there's capital flight, why there's unemployment. They'll still play those weaknesses and make it look as though it's your fault. And that's where the headaches come. And of course, with the politics coming into play as well, we were in a very complex coalition with very ambitious parties who were never satisfied with what they got, and they continued the horse trading, and you know, and that was, I think, the biggest source of headache in the time that I was in office.
Before Nyaniso asks that itching question, I just want to ask you, during your time as a mayor in the city of Johannesburg, did you have any moments where you wanted to regret and throw out the towel?
Never, ever. Not once. We fought until the bitter end, if you recall. We were illegally ousted in September. You'll recall on the 30th of September for 25 days. We fought to get back into office. It was a worthwhile cause. And there was no reason to give up, ever. In spite of the difficulties, the pushback, resistance from some of our own coalition partners, it was still worthwhile pushing to stay in office, because we knew we were for the people. We knew we had solutions. We had the right people in key positions driving those solutions. And it was worth fighting with one hand and continuing to build with the other hand.
I just want to zoom into the DA. You're still a member of the DA.
Yes, I am.
You just resigned as a councillor.
That's right.
You put up a fight, or you contested your current leader, John Steenhuisen, and you lost. This is what I want to bring up, and this is what I want to understand. You are a medical doctor, a professional, and your leader is not a doctor, and all of that, and you lost to him, and a female. What would you say was the reason? Why would a female, a black female, a professional lose to lead a political party?
Look, I don't know. I made myself available, and I went through the entire process, and the outcome was what it was. There were issues I had with the entire process, which I won't get into. There were challenges I had with how the whole process was run, which I raised even before Congress. And some things played themselves out even at Congress that I was not particularly happy about. But I don't want to dwell on those things or on why I lost. I would really like to dwell on the future. South Africa needs a change in government. And South Africa needs leaders who are committed to that change. And I continue to see myself as one such leader.
Within the DA?
Within the DA. The reason I've not resigned from the DA is because I have not found an alternative home. I see the many political parties, many of which I've worked with or been exposed to.
So you're not joining the
in
EFF?
council. I'm not joining the EFF. I remain a member of the Democratic Alliance. If I wanted to leave, I would have left. It's my prerogative. There's nothing stopping me. There's nothing forcing me to stay. The reality is I've not found an alternative. And I still believe that with the good governance track record of the Democratic Alliance and the state of our country right now, I believe that Democratic Alliance has the blueprint to turn around South Africa's situation. I recognize our limitations, particularly in connecting with the majority of South Africans and convincing them to give us their vote. And that was the main reason I put my hand up, because I believed I could assist my party in bridging that gap.
What is it that you believed you could offer, which the current leader, John Steenhuisen, whom you challenged, cannot offer?
Look, I was once in a position that a lot of Black South Africans find themselves in today, where it took me a while to join the Democratic Alliance. I had my doubts. And my doubts were valid, given the history of this country. I understand those reservations that people will have about the DA, because I once had them myself. And I understand how I transitioned to where I could trust the DA and give the DA an opportunity. And I believe I can drop the same lifeline to a lot of other people who are sitting with doubts as to whether they can trust this party, as to whether it won't take us back to apartheid. I believe I understand their mindset. I understand what informs those fears, and I understand how I can help them to overcome those fears. I do believe that there's a communication breakdown often. I get asked questions about, BEE and the DA's position on economic redress and so on. And I pick up that there is a thinking that the Democratic Alliance is not pro-redress, when in actual fact, that is not true. If you look at what we've achieved, for instance, in the city of Johannesburg, under our leadership, when Herman Mashaba was mayor, and what continued even under my mayorship, as short as it was, you will see that we're actually pro-redress. A lot of the programs we implemented in economic development, as an example, were all about bridging the inequality gap. But that's not really known, and there's a communication gap. And so the people on the ground are not really aware of what we've done for them as a people. And that's the gap that I wanted to close.
There's a last follow-up now, just on this issue, then you can ask a question. The DA has been accused of being racist, and this has come out sharply through the exodus of Black leaders within the DA. Is there any truth in the DA being racist?
The DA is a big organization. As an organization, the DA is against racism.
As an organization?
As an organization. Now, when you talk about the DA, you're talking about the organization. Yes. Are there elements in the DA?
Or individuals?
Are there individuals in the DA who are racist? I would certainly say yes. It's been my experience that there are individuals who are struggling with race relations.
Would you name them?
No, it's not necessary. It's not necessary. I believe that as an organization, we need to continuously introspect and continuously go through cleansing processes where it's necessary. I believe in the organization itself. I don't believe the organization is racist. I do believe that we need to be proactive in dealing with any signs of racism. I do believe that we need to do that. But I also believe that people need to report more, because during my campaign, I was told a lot of things that I was not aware of before, because I was sitting here in Johannesburg, minding my own business and talking to people during the campaign, trying to ask people for their vote. I discovered that some people are harboring things, that they're not able to talk about. And I really wish that they would be brave and they would come forward and talk about things, but I'm still not convinced the DA as an organization is racist. I do believe that there's things that need to be dealt with internally.
I think as a follow-up, Doctor, and I think you answered Nyaniso partly to say you still believe that your blood is blue through and through. One will ask, given what Nyaniso has asked about the challenges within the DA as a party, racism, what are you doing as a leader as well to champion those causes? What are the discussions that are you having?
Well, I mean, I put my hand up for leadership, because I wanted to be able to deal with some of the things I'm seeing internally that need leadership to deal with. I was not a leader in the DA. I was a mayor in the city of Johannesburg.
Okay.
Big difference. And so I felt, my focus was governance of the city. Right. And yes, I was a spokesperson for the DA in council and so on. But I felt that I needed to position myself to have greater influence in trying to root out some of the things that I think could be eating away at the profile, the brand, and the reputation of the party, which is a really fantastic party, which I really identify with. So I think I've done my part. We spoke about how I put my hand up. I did not become the leader. I'm satisfied that I put my hand up. I availed myself. What happened, happened. Have I given up? No, I have not. I believe that I will still be in at the right time in a leadership role within the party to be able to drive the cause that I'm passionate about. I don't believe that now is that time. I believe that now I need to focus on my own development, my own self-preservation, and my own sanity, my own healing with everything that I've been through. I'm going through restoration process. And yeah, it's important. It's important to pause, reflect, allow yourself to recover, and then continue to run the race.
You are a member of the DA, and you became the mayor as well of the city of Johannesburg, and you happen to be married to a prominent member of Action SA. Did you have any backlash from your party? Did they have issues with that?
Mistrusts.
Yes.
So again, when we talk about the party, we talk about a big organization. Yeah. I believe there were people that had their concerns. I did get a lot of support as well, though. Even in my own caucus, yes. My first meeting with the caucus after the whole news broke, there was a bit of tension, but people just needed to be reassured. And the concerns were not misplaced either. Yes. Somebody in Action SA had positioned itself as an enemy of the DA. As much as they were a coalition partner, they didn't always play nice with the DA. And it was almost like an obsession with bringing down the Democratic Alliance. And it's not surprising that people would have concerns about information sharing, sharing of strategy and that sort of thing. And I just needed to reassure them, of my maturity, but also Brutus's maturity, not only mine. And we exercised those kind of boundaries at home. If he was in an online meeting, and I walked in on it, and I could hear he's talking Action SA, I would walk out of respect for his professional space. We were not together to try and cause problems. In fact, more than anything, we were trying to hold the coalition together. It was really about getting people to be sober around working together, getting people to be mature around working together. It was never about, let me give you our secrets, give me yours. Nah. Because one thing we have in common with Brutus is we're both passionate nation builders. And that's what holds even our relationship together. Even now, while I'm out of office, we're still talking about the nation. How are we contributing? What are we doing? And that continues. So we had nothing to gain from leaking sensitive strategy, but we rather focused on how do we make sure these two continue to work together, because we had the biggest numbers in our coalition. We had 71, they had 44, and those two were key. Without the two parties together, the coalition would not hold. Yes.
Before we go to another question, has he ever, or maybe your side as well, has he ever maybe tried to recruit you to join his party, and also you vice versa? Have you ever say, hey, you know what, Habi, join the DA here, and him as well?
We had an understanding from the beginning that we're not going to try and recruit each other. But should he have come to a point where he felt he wanted to cross over, I was not going to stop him. You know, I knew I was not going to cross over to Action SA. I've worked with Herman before. He was my mayor when I was MMC. And I knew that chapter and that season in my life was closed. And so there was no question about that. I think there was a greater likelihood of him perhaps, especially when I ran for leader of the party, you know, that could have happened as just a natural progression of a partner supporting their partner as the leader of a party. I think it would have been a bit strange and more difficult to maintain two separate parties in that instance. But while I was mayor, we were quite happy with the situation. In fact, we felt it strengthened the coalition more than anything else. And we were demonstrating maturity and that it's possible to be mature, to be together, be one, even though you're in different political parties.
You know, Klaus, I just want to bring a human touch element to this. At which point were you approached? I just want to first establish that. When did he approach you? I assume Klaus, he approached you. At which point was it when you are already a councillor, a prominent member of the DA, and him a strategist within the city of Johannesburg? Was it
approach me romantically?
Yes, romantically.
Ah, you want to talk?
Yeah. But at which point, when, because you know where I'm coming, I want to get at which point was it already a prominent member of the Action SA and you a prominent member of the DA?
Let me summarize a long history. So I knew Brutus in 2017 when he came into the city. Now, I was instrumental in one of his subordinates, right? So he was director in the office of another MMC, a colleague of mine. And one of his subordinates was an associate of mine from my previous life, who then became a communications deputy director in that office. And so fast forward, he left the city, I think in 2019. And when he left, I was actually at his farewell. But the only reason I was there, in fact, I was not attending. I was around there because I had a meeting with my director, right? And my director was attending his farewell. But we had some work to do. And so I offered to go there so we could finish this work and then he could go on with the celebrations. It was after hours. And I remember having a chat with Brutus and saying, where are you going? You know, and he said, well, someone's paying me to do what I love. I love to write, so I'm going to go write.
The book.
Right? I had no idea then what he was talking about. And I wished him well. There was nothing romantic whatsoever. I just knew him as a colleague of my director and one of the good ones. And then he left. And then he came back after my mayorship. And I remember seeing him and he was sitting with Action SA people. And I said, hey, what's going on? Are you now Action SA? And jokingly, he said, where am I seated? You know, you can see, you know. And so he became director in an MMC's office again. And I'm now the mayor, right? And he was requesting a meeting. But I didn't know what the meeting was about. And again, going back to the whole trust issue, my office was uncomfortable with this request for a meeting. But it wasn't just him, it was him and his subordinate, who's now his friend, who I can call an associate, like from my previous life. And they were asking for this meeting. And my office, I remember, because we would have diary meetings. Diary meetings were important because there's always so many requests and only so little time. And they would keep pushing them back and pushing them back and pushing them back. And they kept asking and asking through my associates.
PA or something.
And I remember one day saying, guys, just book them after hours. It's fine. I'll see them. And I remember my team saying, but what do they want? You know, and I said, no, it's fine. I'll see them. And that's really where the connection started, because I did meet them. I met them after hours. And we had dinner at a neutral place, at a restaurant. And I realized that the interest was beyond work. You know, I didn't understand then that it was romantic.
So he went through office to hit on you?
I wouldn't say that. He was curious.
Okay.
He was curious because you need to understand that I'm not a...
You're not easy to approach at the time.
No. I've never self-identified as a politician. And in the space of politics, I'm atypical. And for somebody who's a political analyst and strategist, I'm a person of interest because who is she? How did she get here? Who's behind her? And that was really the conversation at that dinner. Who are you?
So you
what
wanted to know
drives you? Why politics? You're a doctor. The same questions you ask. It was really that sort of, and I opened up. And in opening up, and he also opened up about his own journey. There was a lot about him I didn't know, because he was, remember, he's a technocrat, I'm a politician, there's boundaries. So I never gave myself a chance to say, who are you? So at that dinner, we actually connected at a different level.
Yeah.
And that's where we discovered we're actually driven by the same cause. We're both passionate about the development of South Africa, the future of the country. And that's where a series of conversations started. But I think what cemented our relationship was the illegal ousting. You'll recall that the DA and Action SA were threatening to never work together. And I think at that point, we felt a need to connect and keep the coalition together, you know, at least the two major players. And of course, we started engaging more, and then the rest is history. But it was really, it came from a place of curiosity about, you know, who is this person? And yeah, that's how it played out. So obviously, yes, he was already in Action SA. But I saw beyond that as soon as I understood who he was and what he was about, and he saw beyond the DA as soon as he understood who I was and what I was about.
Yeah, and here you are, Doctor. I just want to find out, next day it's national elections as well, and I think you spoke about during the conversation about your role, that you still see your role, a big role to play within the DA, and you're no longer the mayor, you're no longer the councillor. But what are your plans, future plans, given that in the context of election next year?
Yes.
What are your plans?
It's a good question. It's a question I don't have an answer for. And I'll be honest. I came out of council. My resignation was formally end of September. Right? So I served a month's notice. And 30th of September was my last day as a councillor. So I've been, a month and a half out of council. And I've transitioned back into a space, a professional space I've been away from for 7 years. You can appreciate the amount of catching up I need to do. So I'm investing a lot of time in reading, in watching material, just to ensure that I'm faithful to that space, first and foremost. And whatever else I do will then be secondary, because currently that is my primary role. I'll continue to contribute, and I do. You know, you're not the only people I'm talking to. I get invited to give commentary on what's happening in the city, coalition politics, what do I think should happen next year, and I will continue to contribute. Our councillors, those who call on me, I continue to assist. Residents who call on me, because I still, once a mayor, always a mayor. I still get...
So they still call you about the potholes and all that?
Yes, and I will continue to assist. But in terms of the elections themselves, I really don't know what role I will be playing yet. I believe it'll come to me. Yeah, I really do. I believe it'll come to me. I believe it'll happen organically. I do want to contribute. It's an important milestone in the history of our country, and I believe that it will take shape, and I will know what it is. But I am really, I mean, I'm in Rustenburg. I drive to Rustenburg twice, 3 times a week to go do theatre work there. And the days that I'm here, there's so much that I need to take care of at home, and that.
Theatre work.
Yes.
You've been away from the game for 7 years in class. Would I trust you with a knife in my body?
You shouldn't. You shouldn't. And that's why I'm part of a team. Yes, I'm part of a surgical team. We've got a neurosurgeon. We have an orthopedic surgeon. We have anesthetists. And in that team, I'm a GP assistant. GP surgical assistant. So yeah, but of course it's important to learn. So like I say, I've spent a lot of time reading, watching material, so I understand the procedures that we do. And fortunately, it's very specialized. So we do mostly spine operations. And yeah, so it's very repetitive. So it's quite easy to catch on, and I'm really enjoying learning. I'm enjoying the professionalism. I'm enjoying challenging myself and feeling like I'm actually growing again. And it's stretching me in so many ways. It's also humbling in a lot of ways, because when I started, I almost had a sense of imposter syndrome, where I felt like I'm the weakest link in this theatre. You know, everybody's on top of their game. But it was also so encouraging to see there's still pockets of excellence in our country. People who take their work seriously. From the cleaner to the scrub nurse to, you know, every single person in that theatre. For me, it was so lovely to see. It gave me hope, you know, that South Africa still has it. These are young professionals who are passionate, so dedicated. They work long hours. Nobody pushes them. You know, they are driven and they want to give nothing but the best of themselves. I believe there's a reason I had to be in those spaces. Myself, over and above the people that I serve, I also need hope. And that space is giving me hope.
Are you hopeful about South Africa?
I really am. I really am, and like I said, being in the space that I am is giving me hope that there are great people. South Africa has great assets, skilled young professionals who just need the right leadership, and we can be an amazing country.
Thank you, Doctor. That was Dr. Mpho Phalatse. She says South Africa has great people who are passionate about this country, and she has hope for South Africa. We've been shedding light on Dr. Mpho Phalatse, the former executive mayor of the city of Johannesburg, DA member. She has hope of contributing to the politics of this country once more. Stay watching the show, follow us on social media, subscribe to the Shared podcast. Bye-bye.